Jim, what's going on? It is good to be back in the
La
arena with you.
Larry, it's always good to hang out with you, man. I feel like this is the 4th time we've been together, and I
Yeah,
need I need to go back to Missouri and hang out with you face to face.
let's go. Let's go.
I tried to set up a deal, and the dates they wanted me to speak didn't coincide. I had another thing going on.
Because you were in town, right?
No, I was trying to get there for our book launch, and,
Okay.
the dates that they had, and I was in Champaign, but
Okay.
St. Louis, I tried to get out there, and the dates coincided with another speaking thing, so didn't work out.
Well, I mean, speaking of Champagne, though, so that's obviously in Southern Illinois, which is
Yeah.
pretty far from here. But they are famous for La Bamba, which they make burritos that are as
Oh.
big as your head. They're
Ooh, that's
they're
saying something.
Yeah, they're crazy. Like, and when I used to have a full-time job and I covered Champagne, we'd go there and everybody's like, you got to go to La Bamba. Like they have like, I'm
Oh.
surprised this thing hasn't been on Man versus, or it might have been on Man versus Food, but it was kind of,
Wow, okay,
yeah.
well, that's good to know. I'm heading over to Mattoon October 5th.
Okay.
I think that's still quite a ways from you, right? By 2 hours?
Yeah. It's about 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'll get there, man, I'll get there, I promise.
well, dude, let's dive in.
Yeah.
Actually, let's just get dialed in. How about
Oh,
that?
yeah, baby,
We should
dial it
get
in.
dialed in.
Yeah.
Okay. So, first of all, I love everything that you do. Not only have we been on each other's podcasts, but like I really genuinely enjoy all of your content, what you stand for, the man that you are. I think Instagram knows that I like your stuff because you're always within the first five like scrolls up. And so I
And I
know that.
appreciate that.
No, seriously. So, but as soon as I saw the media kit for the book, I was like, oh man, the first question I've got to ask Jim that I don't think you're ready for is you've got to tell me about this cover. Like, what is the cover all about?
Hey, bro, I am so pumped about this cover. There is a story. So, we took it to the publishing team, David C. Cook, and they came back with 6 cover designs, and they have no idea who I am. And they had multiple designs, but this was one of them. Only it was a red stag on here. It was not an elk. And it was funny because the guy that designed the cover was not a hunter, and he said, "Yeah, we literally like this one with the elk." I said, "Well, first of all, that's not an elk. That's a red stag." But it was my favorite one. And so and they all loved it. And so we went with this. We had the design, the color. We kind of designed it to look like a coffee table book that a guy would just want to throw on a table and just have it sitting there. And this is not a hunting book, but that elk, it just says so much more than hunting. And so that's where that cover came from. So I really love the cover. And you see the shirt, we got the shirt, got the elk on it. So whenever, I've got some friends who have a hunting organization called Born and Raised Outdoors, and they said whenever you put horns or an American flag, those things sell.
I can see why, man, because like and it's fascinating. I did not know what the answer to that question was going to be.
Yeah.
But as soon as I saw and as soon as you started talking and as soon as I started to kind of catch on to where you were going, I was like, "Oh my gosh, so this is a
Yeah.
book that somebody would pick up," right? Because I'm sitting here thinking like I've only seen a photo of it right now, but I want to pick up this book. Like, what does dialed in mean with this really cool animal and the black background and everything? It's just very cool.
Well, it's funny because the first chapter, my introduction chapter, it talks about how when I go to sight in a rifle, my first thought is I bore sight it, right through the barrel to the target at about 25 to 50 yards. And then I'll throw a round in, I'll try to put the bullet on the paper, and then I'll move back to 100 yards and I'll really dial it in and try to get a 3-shot group that's touching at 100 yards. That's the goal. And so my first book, Strong Men, Dangerous Times, which is right there, I talk about the 5 essentials of manhood, but this book takes those 5 essentials and it dials them in to laser focus so that a guy knows beyond a shadow of a doubt, here's what God's design is for men who really want to dial in their life. And it comes right out of the pastoral epistles of the Bible. There's a list, and that's where it comes from.
So I love where we're going with this. I want to I want to speak to just people who don't believe this way,
Yes.
right? And I don't know. I've noticed it since the launch of my last book, and I see just how controversial, obviously, this topic is.
Oh,
But
for sure.
it gets people obviously very very triggered. But as far as like that didn't happen, or I don't believe in that, or the Bible was just this mythical book that was, written, whatever. Um, I'm just so curious. How do you respond to people who believe that? Which, by the way, we don't fault you for that. That's your belief.
Oh, for sure.
But what do you say?
Well, it's really interesting. So God lists 20 qualifications for what he would say is a spiritual leader, which really should be the goal of every Christian man. But when we start going down this list, I took what I did here, Larry, is I took the original Greek language and I broke these 20 into one positive masculine word. So when I start talking to men, no matter what they believe, doesn't matter what you believe, I say, okay, most important thing is to be a blameless man, to live above reproach. What do you think? And they, doesn't matter what you believe. Nobody's going to try to raise children who are liars, children who are cheaters. They say yes. Then the next one is the servant, that you're willing to serve others and contribute to society. I know the dad edge, you promote that hard. That's just a ethical reason for a man to exist. Then we have the witness, which might be a little Christian, which is you're either a missionary or mission field, which is, being an evangelist, putting your message out there. The next chapter is the calm man, being calm, not being an angry guy. Almost all of the 20, we have the faithful man, not cheating on your wife. All of these 20, of all of these 20, maybe there are one or two that are spiritual in nature, but that list, it's crazy how God would put out a list for spiritual leaders. And most of these things really just have to do with a man's integrity and his ethics. And it's crazy how unspiritual some of these are. So it doesn't matter what these guys believe. When I go down this list, they go, man, and their wives light up. Oh, I sure wish this for my husband. Or the single women. Oh, I wish I could find a man like that. And it doesn't matter what they believe. If this is true, which we believe it is, then it's going to have an effect on everybody, no matter what they believe.
I think that's so well said. I think what I see a lot, and maybe even my upbringing, because I was kind of there. Like I was actually assaulted by a priest in when I was in fifth grade.
Oh man. So sorry.
Yeah, no, not sexually. Let me
No, I understand.
clarify that.
Yeah, I understand.
No, he put me in a headlock and drug me like into the sacristy where that's where. So I was a server at
Yeah.
the church we went to, and he did not like me. And so, like, he would yell and scream, and he told me to go get the matches for the candles, and he pointed me in the direction where they were at, and I went in that direction, but I guess I passed by, and he actually did this thing, man. He, like, came out, and everybody was coming in to the church because we were about ready to do mass, and he literally comes from behind, puts me in this headlock, drags me back into the sacristy, gets nose to nose with me, and he's like, "I told you they were over there." And I was just like, "Holy crap." And, but you know what? But, then, I mean, like, I'm 49 years old. Like, it actually, I don't want to say it was normal, but it wasn't totally uncommon sometimes for either a nun or a
Oh,
priest
100%.
to, like, physically reprimand you, right? And, but you look back and you're like, wow, that wouldn't fly now, right? But it is what it is. But, like, I think when people, let's actually take the spirituality out of for a second.
Yep.
And when people start talking about exactly what you just did, they're like, "Yeah, I want that." But as soon as we start talking about it through the lens of, what we believe in, as far as, God or Jesus Christ, or whatever, people are like, "No, no, no, don't talk to me about that." What I've found is a lot of people do have, really negative experiences in how they were maybe raised, or even now maybe shamed for, you know what I mean? They've just have a bad taste in their mouth.
Yeah, I do. And I was born and raised in that same tradition as you, and I experienced some angry nuns.
Right,
And so
right.
I understand that. And it could be anything. It could be any religion that was hardcore, and a lot of religious movements that they hurt people because they're led by broken people and hurting people hurt people. And when you were talking about that story with the priest, I thought, okay, well, I have a chapter called the protector. And the protector chapter, the word that the Bible uses is to not be a bully, basically, in the Greek language. And so I try to use positive words. So the opposite of a bully is a protector. And so in your particular case, and I take a real minority view, I think, when it comes to a couple verses in the Bible, but in my opinion. And what I stand on is if I would have seen that in a Catholic church, I would have bum rushed that priest and physically removed him from you, because God has called us to protect the weak, to protect the young, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And in that situation, for a guy to walk into church to attend mass, see that scenario play out and sit down because it's a priest, that guy would be less than a man, in my opinion. The perfect response, the appropriate response would be to physically remove that priest from you, reprimand that priest, and take that to the next level. That's what a protector does. And so, we wrote this book from a masculine perspective, an assumption that a lot of times in organized religions, we overplay the soft side and underplay the rough side. And so, I think with Jesus, I think a lot of times we've sissified him a little bit. I had one guy arguing with me, and this guy actually had to be a Catholic guy. And I'm not against Catholic. I'm not speaking against anything Catholic. This guy happened to be Catholic, and he was talking about Jesus was meek and mild. I'm like, well, how do you explain the making a whip and then going through the temple and tipping over the money changes? How do you explain Jesus getting indignant when people were disrespecting children? Jesus was meek, but he was not mild. He was meek and wild, is what he was. And so, trying to bring back a different perspective, a biblical perspective of who Jesus actually was, I think is really needed today for a lot of broken and wounded ex-church people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that once someone has an experience, like that, or something that just impacts them, it it causes us to view the entire ecosystem, the entire thing in that way, right?
Oh,
You
for
know,
sure.
but I want to get back to one of the things that you do talk about in your book, and you mentioned the word masculinity
Yeah.
when you were going through that last bit. What I'm curious about is part of your book is what true masculinity looks like in God's eyes, and
Mhm.
I'm sitting here thinking like I've been doing Bible study now for a handful of years, and that one really prompted me to be like, yeah, what is that? So what
Yeah.
is that?
Well, first of all, I would just say, and I've been saying this for years, is that whenever we hear the political phrase toxic masculinity, and that is a political phrase, that is oxymoronic. If you look up the word masculinity, the man who is masculine is actually the opposite of toxic. He's the contributor to the society. So, what I like to say is males are the source of 90% of the world's problem, but men are the solution. And so, when we talk about biblical masculinity, which is what I do in this book, I dial in these 20 qualifications, and it just says, hey, here are 20 things that a man who, in God's eyes, is at his most dialed in level, he does these 20 things. And so we ask men to assess their lives, and we have an assessment at the end of each chapter. And guys can go and add that up and get totals. They can go to our website and they can figure out how they measure up against other men who took the assessment, thousands and thousands of men. And we just ask guys, okay, where are you weak here? Like when I wrote the book, I went, man, the calm man, I need to work on being calm because I can flare up sometimes. You know what I mean? I can flare up. I need to work on certain things in my life and improve upon them. And so that's what this book does. It says, hey, here's how masculinity looks in God's eyes, these 20 things. Where can you grow? Where are you hitting it out of the park? And for example, the last chapter is called The Disciplined Man, Making Decisions Against Yourself. And I had to go, man, I need to, I need to work on the eating part of my life. I need to work on the words, what I say to other people. So how can I make decisions against myself to be a better version of myself? And so that's what this book does.
Wow, man. You are going in such a powerful direction. Like you're taking on, I think, questions and insights in the book that I think are just sort of outside the realm of just the questions that we ask ourselves, both
Yeah.
if we're a believer or even a non-believer. Um, I want you to talk a little bit more about that. Like so, and I want to talk about this through a perspective of a father's eyes to his
Mm,
son, and maybe even if you can, like how men who have daughters can have a conversation with his daughter around like, hey, if you really want to know what a good man looks like, it's these qualities, right? It's these characteristics. It's the probably the 20 things that you're talking about in the book, right? But I would love to hear what your guidance around men who have sons and what that looks like, and to live this and emulate this, and then conversations with daughters.
Yeah, I think as far as daughters go, I had a mom write into me and she said, finally, because her husband was involved in our stuff, she said, finally, my husband is the man that my three daughters can measure every man against.
Mm.
And so, right, ultimately, if you're a man, you want to say, okay, my standard is God, right? He's my standard. But if that has to manifest itself through you, because your children are judging the kind of person they're going to marry, the kind of person they're going to be, the kind of person they're not going to be. They're judging all that through you as the father, whether you're engaged, whether you're not engaged. I just met with my executive assistant today, and she was talking about her son. She was a teen mother, and her son went and saw his bio dad, and he was just saying, "Mom, this guy's got 4 kids from 4 different women. He has custody of none of them." And so this young man is identifying what he doesn't want to be like, because now he lives with a man who adopted him, who he wants to be like. And so I would say for the women, the men who are raising young women, it's important that they set a standard for who they want to be with. And it's really crazy, Larry. Over and over again, I see these young ladies making choices about men based on what they didn't receive from their father. And the goal of men is to be the kind of man that their daughters judge every man against. Like, I want my husband to be like that guy. And then as far as the sons go, uh, and you have 3 boys, right? 3 boys?
4.
Or oh, that's right. Oh, I lose track, bro.
Hey, me
So
too.
so you yeah, holy cow. So you understand. So with the boys, there's, I love the dad edge, but with the boys, there's a rougher edge than with the girls, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
the boys, you got to teach them I'm enough. You do bodybuilding competitions with your kids. You've done martial arts with your kids. These are all things that with the boys, I think that's really important, because they're asking this question, am I enough? Do I have what it takes? And with these 20 qualifications, or these 20 characters of manhood, a father can dial in on these and say, hey, in this area, in this area, in this area, you're falling short here, son. You're not being blameless because you got caught cheating, or you're spending too much time in your phone, and that's not making a decision against yourself. That's taking the soft way, the easy way, the weak way. And so we want you to be a solid man, not a soft man. So you need to make decisions, and it's like you've done with your kids. And I've watched your ministry to your sons and your organization. You're just so good about bringing your kids to that next level, right? That they don't want to go because there's suffering involved. There's stretching, there's trials. But that's with our young men, when we raise young men, we have to put them through that, because someday they're going to be in our shoes, leading families and having daughters who are looking to them for the standard. So important.
I would agree. I would agree. I have found that I can be my own worst enemy with that one.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like and I think especially if you came from a background where it wasn't it wasn't a good experience, like, there was a lot of things bad that happened, right? Because I think what you want to do is you want to protect your kids almost too much,
Yeah.
right? You want to actually give them the childhood that you would have ever so hoped for, right? But I think that that's also robbing them of tough things, right? Like, one of the things that my wife and I started doing in our relationship is with the boys is putting them more in the driver's seat
Yeah.
when it comes to decisions, and then depending on what decisions they're making, having dialogue with them and conversations of how they're making those decisions and how they're coming to those conclusions and why and what. And then our job could be like, well, hey, what do you think the result of doing that is, or that, or what if you had this option, right? Developing them into more critical thinkers, I think, is huge, right? And I think we need to really be aware that we can actually create tremendous problem solvers if we weren't in our own way from time to time by wanting to always constantly serve and
Well,
overserve.
and this is a massive problem for what I call good parents.
Yeah.
Good parents who are engaged, what they tend to do is they take this blank, this big empty mosaic called their child, and they try to build a wall around it. And so a better illustration would be, instead of building a wall around your child, tweaking your child, challenging your child, and dialing in who they are, so they've got this laser focus because you've allowed them to experience successes and failures, and to tweak and to dial so they become a more laser like focus of who they are. And
Yeah,
that's what we do as parents. And yes, it hurts. And yes, there's challenge there. And yes, we have to let our kids fail. We have to celebrate the successes, but we are going to release them into a world that is brutal. And
I
we
agree.
aren't going to help them if we're building walls. Now, don't get me wrong. In my chapter called The Leader, we are wall builders. There are certain areas where we need to build walls around our family. But there are also areas where we need to release them within the context of the wall to run and make their own choices. 100% agree.
I love that analogy, by the way, that we build this wall around them, instead of actually like allowing them to take some licks, and just, hey, let's see how do we respond? Like, right? Like, what is this little human being actually doing? How are they reacting? Right. And then how can we guide and help? Um, just a really quick story. My oldest son, he has a car detailing business.
Oh, whoa.
And
Awesome.
yeah, he developed it last year, and it was actually a school project. He was a part of an entrepreneur program at school, and he had to start a business for no more than $50 and then 10x his investment within a month. So he did this car washing detailing company thing. And we dialed it in. He got enough customers over the past almost year that he knows he's going to make about $45 an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's great. And so this summer, I was like, "Hey," I was like, "What are you gonna do?" He's like, "I think I'm gonna go get a job." And I'm like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Where?" And he's like, "Oh, my buddy, works at this senior living home as a dishwasher, and he makes." I was like, "How much does he make?" He's like, $15 an hour. I was like, "Okay." I was like, "So I was like, "You want to go wash dishes for $15 an hour and not, you know, make $45 an hour and your schedule's your own?"
You're
And
trying to be
he's like,
nice and saying it.
I was, and I was just and he's like, "No, I wanna go do this." And I'm like and I was like, "Okay." And I thought to myself, I was like, "You know what?" I was like, "I don't know if for all I know, he might love washing dishes. Chances are, I don't think he will." And as soon as he realizes, like, what he's in for, and then how much he's making when he gets that first paycheck, he might make a different decision. But I my job is to be like, "Yeah, go try that. Go feel that." And I actually told him this. I said, "You know what?" I was like, "You absolutely should go do that." I was like, "Because, you know, if you go through that process and you're like, wow, that was not a good choice. And now
Mm,
I know why." I was like, your consequences around here are they're not high. Like, it's not like you're gonna lose a place to stay or food on the table. Like, go try this out.
yeah.
And he's like, yeah, yeah, good point. And so that's what he's gonna do.
Well, that's the balance, right? It's giving our children enough rope to almost hang themselves.
Right.
Not
Right.
to hang
Exactly.
themselves, because as adults, they're gonna have that rope, but give them enough rope to feel, feel the pressure when they make a mistake, and then you can help them. But man, we have to give them the reins at some point. And I think the more we can do that while they're in their home and we can grow them and nurture them, the better we are as parents.
I agree. I 100% agree. So let's keep going. I would love to also talk about this, functioning at full capacity
Yes.
in all aspects of life. So first of all, can we define, what all aspects are, and
Yeah,
then
so
what full
the funny
capacity?
part is this book was initially called the Full Capacity Man. So I got it changed on me to Dialed In Men. They thought that was a better title. So the full capacity, when I say full capacity, I'm going back to those 20 items, right? The 20 items, the 20 chapters of my book, and I'm saying, hey, the man who's firing on all cylinders, the man who's functioning, he's got every round in his magazine, he's got a full capacity mag. That guy has all 20 of these. He's working on them and he's growing in these 20 areas. Now we're imperfect. We're broken individuals. We can never perfect all 20, if that would make us the Messiah. But what we can do is we can take these 20 and use them to assess where we are in this process of dialing in our lives. And so for me, that full capacity man is a guy who is actively engaged in these 20. He understands what they are, and he's working to grow and to become a better man, a better husband, better father, better community member, a guy who's taking a world that's maybe he's putting the bullet on the paper, and he starts to really dial in that group, and he's really got that in the bullseye, and he's got it in the red.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes total sense. And so full capacity, tell me more about that.
So full capacity just talks about the man. I believe this. This book was supposed to be the subtitle was initially reaching your full potential as a man of God, and I hate the word potential. I just hate that word. So many people die with potential, and I think the greatest crime of humanity is the man who dies with potential. So I had them change it to full capacity. So I want to take my capacity. So if the capacity is this circle I've created, and I want to expand it, expand it, expand it. And as I grow as a man, as I grow in these 20 qualities, I'm able to actually expand my capacity. A lot of us were born in divorced families, or dad wasn't engaged, and they come into this world and they enter their adulthood. They have a very limited capacity. But my heart is to help these men expand their capacity, because no man wakes up and says, man, I hope I'm just average. I just believe that God has wired greatness into every man. We're all differently gifted. We all have different strengths and abilities. But my desire is that these guys say, I don't have to sit in this spot anymore. I can enlarge my capacity as a man. I can become and be a better version of myself than what I initially thought was possible. And this book really unlocks men and unleashes them to become that.
Man, I love that. I think when a man is operating on, like you said, on all those aspects of life, everything that you mentioned, the things that he's doing as a husband, as a father, as a member of a community, the the benefits that he brings, to society and to others,
Mhm.
I think that that is the type of man who lives at full capacity. I truly
Oh,
do.
well, it's Larry, just following your dad edge and just watching you. I mean, you're just crushing it. You're a great dad. You're a great leader. You've got a great following, but you recognized in your life that I've got this spiritual side, that the capacity there's a lot of room to increase my capacity. So the last probably 2 years since I've known you, you've been really increasing your capacity. And I've been telling my friends, man, this Larry Hagner, I'm loving this guy. Check this guy out. So even just watching your life from afar, and I would hope that you would look at my life and go, hey, Ramos, I'm seeing you growing in this area, right? As we identify, and we all have those areas, right? For us to stand up and tell men, hey, I'm the guy, man, that's a horrible mistake, because we aren't the guy.
Agreed.
We all have our mistakes, and you and I have mutual friends who are in our space who have been putting that out there, and they fell. And you just can't put it out there like that. You've got to say, man, I'm a flawed guy. I'm trying to figure it out. Figure it out with me. Hey, here's an area that I'm figuring it out. Check this area out. And I think you, like myself, which is why I like you so much, we kind of celebrate those areas where we're less than, and say, hey, I'm a little bit low in this level, but watch me raise the level here. So come with me on this journey. And to me, that's really powerful.
I agree, man. And this is why, to be honest, man, I love having a guy like you in my life. I love having you in my life, because it's that standard. I think when we surround ourselves with the right people, with the people who have similar standards,
Yep.
it's going to rise all tides. It really, really will. I'll tell you the times in my life where I've been the most depressed, the most challenged.
Mm.
I'm coming out of a season where I was depressed and challenged
Yeah,
back
you
in
shared
like,
that with me.
yeah. And I will tell you that if it wasn't for other people in my life, like yourself and other people that call you forward, that don't allow you to stay in certain seasons, they pull you forward, they call you forward. I mean, that makes all the difference in the world, man.
Man, what's funny? I was just reading, I do my own personal Bible study in the mornings, and I'm going through the book of Ecclesiastes verse by verse. And I was in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, and there's a part of that, I think it's verse 10, where it says, two are better than one, because if one falls down, the other one can lift him up. But then I dove deep into this, and the literal translation, Larry, is two are better than one because they have a good return on their work. And if they fall down, not one, if they, and it impacted me. The man, when I'm knocked down, if I've got somebody in my life who can come down with me, and pull. We together can pull each other up. And it's a tragic when a man falls down alone. And so we need to have guys that are journeying with us when we get knocked down. People come down with us, and they through their love, their encouragement, their strength, they pull us out of there. And that's so critical. I just really that hit me about 2 weeks ago.
I agree, man. I agree. Love everything you're saying, man. This book, it comes out September 3rd.
Yes.
So how cool is that?
Yeah,
Um,
I'll tell you, I'm fired up. We are on track to be a USA Today bestseller, which will be a game changer for us. We've already got over 7,000 copies sold, and we haven't even released the book yet.
oh my
So people
gosh.
are really excited about this book, and man, I'm just pumped. And the funny part, Larry, is I can't. I love to write and I love to speak, but I'm not really good at reading out loud. Like I get be ahead of myself, and I actually put this book on Audible, just me. So it's coming out in Audible in the next couple weeks too, and it's gonna be my voice. And man, it's what a challenge.
Right?
Oh man,
Oh man, yeah. But you know what? I always and I think I've heard this from most people. I really love when the author reads his own book. It's
yeah, that's
just
what they wanted.
it's a different experience. It truly is. Like Gary John Bishop still does that. Dr. John Deloney does that. You
Yeah.
do that. Like there's something about hearing that author's voice that just makes it better.
Well, and they wanted the reading of the book is interesting because they said, "Hey, we want you to put your personal touch into this." So I'm saying, "Hey, this book on the protector is probably the most controversial chapter in the book." I take the verse where Jesus says, "Turn the other cheek," and I just translate it in a way that I think has been misinterpreted it, and you may disagree. So I'm able to kind of walk through my personal wrestlings with each chapter, and then I wrote the book, and so I'm able to read it like I'm telling a story. So
Hmm.
it has been really fun for me. Probably the most challenging thing I've done in my whole life, or one of besides being married and raising children.
Well, that gives me so much hope because my publisher just reached out and they told me they wanted me to do which we've been pushing hard for because I'm like I've been telling the publisher, I'm like, guys do not really consume content usually in their hands anymore. It's
Correct.
like between their, it's their ears, or they're watching it. So we got to make an audible version of it. But man, where can guys find you and then find a copy of the book and just get connected with you just in general?
Yeah, great. We're on all social media platforms, and basically, Men in the Arena is how they connect with our organization. If they want the book, we're just driving guys to Amazon. It's all over Amazon. Have them pick it up there. They can go get it from my website, but Amazon is better. It's just better. So Amazon or Men in the Arena.
Awesome. Awesome. We got you covered, guys. We will have all the links in the show notes for you. So not to worry there. Jim, this was awesome. Thank you for coming on today, brother. I appreciate you.
Larry, it's always awesome to have you to be on your show and have you on mine. And I'll tell you what, I love your voice. So you may not win the voice competition for singing, but I'll tell you what, you reading that book, I'm all in, buddy. Just let me know.
I appreciate you, man.
You
Thank you
got it,
so
bro.
much.
Yep.